You're listening to One Family, What's God Doing? Where we explore what God's doing in YWAM locations throughout Virginia. We can't wait for you to find out what God's doing today. Welcome back to One Family, What's God Doing? And I'm happy again to be hanging out with Dustin Campbell. And Dustin, I've got a question for you.
I think I know what it is.
What's God? Every time we're going to do this. What's God doing in Lynchburg?
Oh man, it's like, let's just say it's kind of like a fire hydrant. It's coming out hard and fast. Like a lot of great things are happening. We finally moved into the building. We ended up signing a lease on February 2, but we kind of got in a little at the end of January, around the 30th or something like that. And so it's been busy cleaning and getting the place prepared and just, it's amazing what the stuff that God's already provided. One thing's amazing is just that we've already had different serve teams. Like we had LU serve. It's like all LU students are required to do a service time. So we had a group of them come and help clean the place. And then we had this other ministry that they came in with, like, they have professional construction workers and stuff, and they came in, they did an amazing job. I'm talking, and they want to come back and help us paint, through a friend of Chris, we have access to a professional provider for paint. We can get it for a pretty good discount, so that's exciting. The challenges is God's providing all these contacts and things, but the challenge is that we don't have any finances for anything. but honestly, as we move along, we're just trusting and walking with God. Another thing happened is that in Washington, D.C., they had, Chris contacted me asking if there's some possible LU students or in our group that would like to go to it was at the end of January, praying for, it was a day of prayer of repentance with congressmen and like Speaker of the House was there. And my daughter went, and also some of the other LU students that, a couple of them were the Y members in the prayer group, and they went down there. It's just amazing what happened. My daughter, especially, she had some amazing testimonies. God just placed her in key places. She has pictures with, Ruth Bell Graham and Joseph Kane and then what happened is, like, after they broke out, her and her friend went to McDonald's across the street from the Bible Museum, and inside there was actually a group of pastors from all around the country, and they were listening to this woman named Esther. She's she was one of the speakers in the prayer meeting, and she's a lawyer activist for pro-life activist, and she was just sharing different things. And my daughter sat down there listening to her, and God gave her a word. She received this poem from. We were in the Lynchburg House of Prayer last month, and this homeless guy was there, and he gave this poem. It was basically it was a poem of a unborn child, like the prayer of an unborn child, and it'll make you bawl your head off, and then he felt to give it to my daughter, and when my daughter was there, she had an impression from God to give it to this lawyer lady, and she was planning to approach her afterward. She's talking to a group of 50 pastors in McDonald's or something like that. It's like 30, these are big churches and stuff, she pointed at her and says, "Do you have any questions?" And my daughter literally just approached and went up front and wanted to give the poem, just airdrop it to her. And she says, "Why don't you read it for all of us?" And she did. And you see these pictures of these pastors filming her, sharing this poem. And she ended up getting personal, the phone number of this woman, and they started this relationship. It's just amazing. God just does things. It's just He opens up doors, and it's just amazing that we can be a part of the story, and that's the thing. It's we're a part of a story that is continuing to go on, and honestly, the thing is that when you're in the midst of a story, you don't know how the story ends. You have assumptions, you have hopes, you have dreams, but usually the pathway to get there and how it, matures is to be foreseen, And so right now we're in that. We look back like, wow, look what God has done, but we look forward like, God, we need you to do something, and it's a little bit of both, So.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Before we started recording, you and I were talking about the idea of miracles and how when a miracle happens, what we want is for it to be an all package deal. Like, all right, there's the start and the end of the story, and boom, everything's done. And yet you and Lynchburg have experienced miracles, but there's still a lot of unknowns. There's still a lot of things undone. We got the building, but how are we going to pay for all this and this, that, and the other? But what's so beautiful is that the flip side to that unknown is not only do we not know what's ahead, but also we don't know what God might end up doing. So when you and your family answered the call to go to Lynchburg, you didn't know that your daughter would be up in DC. Like it's complete opposite direction almost, right? Like it doesn't make any sense that going to Lynchburg would lead to this moment in DC. And yet it did, because the way that God works is he's not bound by understanding or geography or logistics.
That's
And
right.
so, what we need to do is what you all are demonstrating is just being willing to step into the story. And so, you talked about this idea that the story is being written. How can other people join in the story of Lynchburg?
Well, like if they're actually in Lynchburg, I mean, honestly, if people are watching this and you're actually physically in Lynchburg, I mean, we need some practical things. I'm just talking like if you have like let's just say if you have a decent couch, but you want to replace it, I mean, please don't give us like the one with bed bugs or something.
Right.
But like, let us take that off your hands. Don't just
Hmm.
throw it away. I mean, like actually, we need furniture. We definitely need some more tables and stuff like that. And we need more beds. Actually,
Hmm.
we have these rooms, but we can get some beds from Richmond, but we still don't have enough to furnish the. So we need basic furnitures and linens and anything you would think of a house would have. We need a lot of that. I mean, right now we just have a table and some chairs. I mean, that's about it. I mean, we don't really have much
Hmm.
else. I mean, I know one thing we need is a new projector. I'm more like a TV, like a smart TV for slides when you're doing worship or something like
Hmm.
that. I mean, practical things. If you're around and like also like if you have skills and you're living in Lynchburg, I mean, yeah, you're welcome to come and help volunteer. I mean, any kind of we definitely have some handyman projects. We definitely have some painting coming up. Those are some things that we definitely have. I mean, if you walk through our building, you would know that okay, these are some things that they're still working on, and
Hmm.
from doorknobs to I mean, just basic carpentry. That'd be a huge help if you can come here. But of course, if you're not living here, I mean, I would say there's two ways you can really partner with this. One is just pray. I mean, I think
Hmm.
there's so much that God does while we when we that he extends his favor through the prayers of his saints. And if you could just spend time praying for us, that'd be awesome. Another thing you could do is, I mean, God might ask you to support us. We don't have any set income coming in. We don't have any regular supporters, and but
Hmm.
we definitely have regular bills. And so, like, if God's calling you to support us monthly, I mean, if it, I mean, maybe you have a lot of resources. You want to give us $1,000 a month, we could
Yeah.
use it. But if you only have like maybe it's $20 a month, that's fine too. You can go to our website ywamlynchburg.org. You can click there. You can make reoccurring gifts. That'd be a massive help. I mean, just have a regular streaming. We'll have more income coming in down the road, but currently, I mean, we don't have anything, and so it's really like pioneering with nothing. We have a
Yeah.
great, honestly, the space like our rent is like it's really I don't know if I should say it publicly, but it's just cheap compared. But reality
Hmm.
is like when you don't, even though it's cheap on the market, it's still when you don't have anything, it's still a lot.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
those are the three ways you can partner with us. You can come volunteer, you can intercede, or you can actually give, or you can do one or all three. Like
Yeah.
we would love for you to come and join us, and we'd so much appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah. And what you're talking about is not simply transactions. Somebody
that's
gives
right.
money or somebody says a prayer or somebody gives a sofa. Like they are actually joining the story
That's right.
of YWAM Lynchburg. They are a
That's right.
real legitimate part of what God is doing. And I that's what I want people to really understand is it's not
Mm,
just giving us something, but you are becoming a part of something.
mm.
So as we close out, is there a verse that God's been putting on your heart?
Well, there's a more of a passage. I was asking God about this, and like it's in Matthew, it's 14:22 to 27. If you're familiar with that, that's Peter walking on the water and stuff like that. And the whole
Mm,
and verse 20 says, immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him on the other side, and he sent the multitudes away. And there's a whole backstory. I try not to get too deep on for you, but the thing is, at one point I want to make out is it was Jesus who told them to get in the boats. And like a lot of times sometimes we God is leading us on a journey, and we might think it's just even mundane or regular, but
mm,
as we read on the passage, we find out the storm comes comes up. And like, and in verse 24, so the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, and the wind was contrary. So the thing is like they're rowing against the wind, and the waves are going up and down. This is becoming this little common trip that a lot of these guys are fishermen that've been on many times, and now they entered into a storm. And I think, and the tendency is to ask God, why am I going through the storm? Not realizing actually God sent us through the storm. And and in the fourth watch, Jesus came walking on the water, and then they thought it was a ghost. And sometimes God does things we don't expect. And then that's Jesus showed up, and then he says, "Be of good cheer. It's me. Actually, I'm doing something here." And like, okay. And then Peter has the boldness to say, he says, like, "Lord, if it's you, ask me to come walk on the water." And Jesus said, "Come." And here comes Peter stepping out of the boat, and he's walking on water. Now, of course, if you go on the passage, he takes his focus off of Jesus and he starts sinking. And I think, I think of that passage. I mean, I think we can all relate to it in some level. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's just Peter and Jesus that I know have walked on water, but, but one thing we can be, there's times like in our lives we go through these storms, but they're God ordained storms. And I think like for us, we came to Lynchburg, and like it was a word of the Lord, and we knew that there was aspects of faith that would require us to go in here. We knew there's an aspect of trust in God, but in the midst of the storm, the tendency is to look at the waves and kind of get overwhelmed and filled with anxiety. It's like, how can we do this? And the truth is, we can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was Jesus who called Peter to even take this step further. I mean, it was one thing to get in the boat and be in the midst of a storm. It's another thing to actually ask God, "Hey, God, if there's more out there, I want it more." Like in the midst of the storm, I'm going to even trust you even crazier, okay? And then we might even fail in the process, but Jesus is there to grab our hand and pull us out. And the thing, and I just want to say, like, we're in the midst of a story, and the thing is that in the midst of this story, there is definitely the swells of the storm. We're feeling it. We don't even know if like it feels like water's coming in the boat. We can't bail ourselves out fast enough. But the truth is that we got to keep our eyes focused on Jesus. When we first put down the down payment, and like it was clear that we were struggling financially, and I sent out a text to all our staff. I said, "Okay, guys, this is our financial situation," and I just literally what I said is, I go, "We're walking on water. Keep your eyes on Jesus." And it was, I think that was, and the whole point is that is Jesus taking us on this journey, and we just need to trust him throughout the journey. So, that's definitely speaking to us here in Lynchburg, but I also think that could speak to anybody watching this. I mean, because there's times we get discouraged in the midst of the storm, and maybe it's a God appointed storm that he's asking us to not focus on the storm, but focus on the one who's bringing us through the storm. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's an important word. And I'm really grateful for the ways that you and the Lynchburg team are walking on the water. All right, let's step into this building, even though we don't know how we're going to pay for it, because this is where you realize it's got to be God. And when God shows up, that had to be God. So thank y'all for leading by example for so many, and just for sharing today. And thank all of you for listening, and not just for listening, but for walking with us as we together, as one family, explore what it means to know God and make him known.
If you'd like to learn more about what God's doing in Virginia, visit us at ywamva.org and join us next week for more stories of God at work.